I have a filly that's in a barn about 5 stalls away from her mom. 95% of the time, they don't care about each other, just the occasional calls back and forth. The filly has started to be turned out in a pen in our indoor arena. My problem is that if I'm not near the pen, she keeps pawing at the ground and sticking her leg through the panels if I walk away. I understand her being nervous, as it's a new area, but she seems content when I'm near. Part of me wants to just have her get over it, but I'm nervous that she will hurt herself in the meantime. I'm limited in what I can adjust in terms of panel arrangement or stall situation, as this is a boarding facility.
So in this particular case, this is why I'm not a big fan of portable panels being used as stalls. Because if a horse lays down and he goes to get pasture in the middle of the night, he can get all 4 legs through the panels and it's a big old wreck. That's why I like stalls that have solid walls to them, at least up the first 5 feet. It's a solid wood, concrete, whatever it is. I have cinder block stalls, but it's solid so that they can't get their legs through things, okay? That's why if you do use portable panels, I always have them at least 6 feet high. So it's very difficult for the horse to get his head up and over that fence, where if you've got a panel that's 4.5 feet tall or 5 feet tall, it's easy for him to get his neck over it and try and jump. What you're basically describing is kind of anxiety around one horse being moved from the other horse, okay? And that's usually a maturity thing, and it usually goes away with time. But, this lady wants to know, what does she have to do rather than standing there, watch this horse? And me personally, I just walk the fuck away. They need to deal with it. That's just what I do, okay? But again, I've got a safe enough environment to where I'm not worried about them getting their legs through the panels. I'm not worried about them jumping through the stall. Like I have those yokes in the stall where the horses can stick their neck out. But when I bring a new horse in the barn, or a yearling or a 2-year-old or a young horse that's never been in my barn, I have the yoke piece put back in the stall front. So there's no way the horse can get his head over through the door. Because usually, funny thing about horses, wherever they can put their head and neck, usually they think their body can follow. So then they'll try to jump through it, and then they get stuck, and it turns into a disaster, okay? Often when you're weaning mares and foals, and it sounds like that's kind of what's happened, it may not be a foal anymore, but when you've got 2 horses that grew up together or lived together, they can get pretty buddy sour together and be hooked to each other. That's why whenever I used to wean foals, I used to take the mare completely off the property, or to the opposite end of the property where they couldn't see him, they couldn't hear him. You cut that bond. Where when you wean them 2 or 3 stalls down the alleyway, or you wean them in the next barn, they can still see each other, they can still hear each other. It just prolongs that anxiety. Will they eventually get over it? The answer is yes, but it takes forever. Where I just like to do a clean cut, bang, over, take the mare that direction 20 miles, the foal this direction 20 miles, weanland, and be done with it. And they get stressed for about the first 24 hours, but they'll get over it. They'll paw the ground, they'll run around. That's why typically when I wean those foals, I don't put them in a big pasture where they can start to be galloping and gallop through a fence. Usually I'll put 2 or 3 foals in a stall, or a small pen where they can still move around, but they can't be galloping off anywhere or doing anything stupid. So to answer your question, I just walk off. Now, you might say, well, Clinton, I can't do that because she'll get a leg through the panel and stuff like that. Well, my advice is maybe try to find some other place to put her where it's not so dangerous. That's why I don't leave horses turned out where there's places that they can typically get their legs through, especially in a turnout situation where they might lay down, roll, etc. Now, even a pasture fence, can they get their leg through that? The answer is yes. That's why I like electric fencing. Electric fencing to me is the safest fence for horses because horses don't want to touch electric fence. They want to get away from it. So it keeps them off the fence, which stops them getting their legs caught through it, etc. Okay, but if you can, try to have those 2 horses out of sight, out of mind, completely away from each other. Not just for a day or two, like a month or two. Get that bond broken. We had a filly this year. I bought her as a yearling, and she had really bad separated. Even though I didn't raise her, I bought her at a sale, brought her home. But she fell in love with the horses around her very quickly. So any time we'd take another horse away, she'd get all upset and all worried and all that kind of stuff. I just basically put her down the end of the barn where she couldn't see any other horses. She could still hear them, but she couldn't see them. And she pitched a fit in the stall for the first day. She'd paw the ground and run around inside the stall and broke into a sweat. And then by the next day, she still whinnied out, but only half a day. By the third day, less and less. But I had a stall that was open on the front, but the other three sides were completely enclosed and it's 10 feet high. So I knew she couldn't jump out of it. I knew she really couldn't get hurt in there. But she had to break that mental anxiety that she had to be near another horse all the time. And then after a week, now she couldn't give a crap where I put her. Now she's over it. But that was her thing. She had a bunch of separation anxiety, and it wasn't that she had a mother and she got weaned. It's just her.